Hey guys, welcome back. This is History of Futurama Season 3, Episode 7 of my show, which is also going to be about Episode 7. Now, Episode 7 is known as The Day the Earth Stood Stupid. Now, before I start talking about this episode, I just want to mention the reason why it's titled like that is because of the plot line of this episode. I just wanted to get that out of the way, though. And I apologize that I sort of didn't upload any videos over the past week because, I didn't upload any videos over the past week because it was a short week last week, and I didn't want to bother posting on a short week. I could have, but I really didn't see the point since we were getting close to the weekend at that point, so I figured take a week off from uploading and then start doing a video today. So I'll do this video today and one video tomorrow, and then if I get the chance, maybe Sunday. Keyword maybe.
I'm just gonna come and get your plate.
Okay.
Do the dishes. Okay, thank you. Anything in the sink? Nope, all clean.
Okay. Anyway,
Are you talking to me?
yeah, no, I'm just recording a video for my
Oh,
channel.
sorry.
That's okay. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I just finished having lunch a little while ago. That's why if you heard it in the background, I apologize about that. Anyway, again, that's why I didn't upload any videos this past week, because we had a short week because of Thanksgiving, so I figured short week last week, might as well save uploading for this week. But anyway, now I'm going to get into the actual storyline of the episode. Enough getting off topic. I'm sorry about that I got off topic there for the first 2 minutes. But anyway, basically the way this episode first starts off is, basically Leela is entering Nibbler in this, pet show, basically, and then after she enters, and then basically what happens is, the professor starts reading this program. Well, after the sign up, the rest of the Planet Express crew is sitting down to watch the show, and then basically, the professor realizes that when he sits down with them, he's looking at a pamphlet which has, the itinerary for the, show, and then when he sees what the prize is, he's like, Suka Faluka! First prize is a $500,000 and a year's supply of dog food. And then basically, because of that, Bender and Dr. Zoidberg get intrigued by that for two different reasons. Bender gets intrigued by that because of the money, and Zoidberg gets intrigued by that because of the dog food. So basically, Bender enters the competition using Zoidberg as his pet, which in his own words, Zoidberg is his hard-shelled whooping terrier. Oh my god, I'm sorry, that's just hilarious. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Hard-shelled whooping terrier because he's a lobster, and he does the whooping sound, and so it makes sense from a funny standpoint. I mean, I'm sorry, I just had to get that out of the way there. And basically, as I stated before, Leela enters the competition with Nibbler, and after they see the herding of the sheep by the sheepdog, and then basically Fry says that the sheep is good, and then Leela says the sheep is also good, but their real competition is the Hypnotoad, which basically I'm just gonna explain what the Hypnotoad is. The Hypnotoad is basically, in the series, he's a celebrity animal that has the ability, shaped like a toad, that has the ability to hypnotize people. And basically, when he does the herding thing, basically what he does is he hypnotizes the sheep to have them go into the picket fence and close the door on their own without them having to do it. And then he hypnotizes the judges to give him a perfect score. I'm just sorry, that's kind of funny. And then basically what happens is Leela then tries to get Nibbler to follow a command by giving him some ham. And then basically what happens is she said that usually he's had more ham by now because he gives him a ham in order to get him to obey one of her commands, but he doesn't. And then afterward, what happens is Bender and Zoidberg are doing this obstacle course, and then basically Bender says that he should be weeping. Why isn't he weeping? And then basically what happens is after that, it gets to the end of the show, and then basically the judges hand out the place winners for who won the dog show. The third place prize goes to a pet named Dave Spiegel and his owner Fluffers. Now I'm not gonna explain about that. Fluffers is basically the owner because I'm guessing it's from a planet where pets. I don't know if this is from because it was never specified in the series what it was, but I know Fluffers was a cat and Dave Spiegel was the pet kind of thing. So hypothetically, I'm thinking there's either two options for that. They must be from. Fluffers must be from a planet where the pets are the owners and the owners are the pets, like a role reversal kind of thing. And then Bender gets awarded the second place prize, but then he gets upset about that, and he's getting mad at Zoidberg because he's like, second place? That's a fancy word for losing! And then he starts whipping Zoidberg, and he's like, you didn't stick the landing! And then Zoidberg's asking Bender to forgive him, but Bender says he won't. And then the judge says that before they announce the grand prize winner, they have a special award for Leela and her pet Nibbler. And then Leela gets ecstatic about that because she gets some kind of award. But then the judge says that that's just the kind of response you'd expect from the owner of dumbest pet in show. And so they put this basically dunce cap on Nibbler, and then basically in the next scene, basically Leela and the others are back at the Planet Express building, and then Leela's wondering if maybe the people at the pet show are right, maybe Nibbler is dumb, and then Frytail says that people tells Leela not to listen to them because people told him he was dumb, but he proved them wrong. And then basically, before I continue, when the episode actually first started, I'm just gonna backtrack back to the beginning here because I missed something. I didn't actually miss it. I just sort of skipped my mind because it was just a minor thing. Basically, what happened was these brains were on their way making it to Earth after destroying the planet Tweenus 12. That's all the backtracking I'm going to do because I just thought I'd bring it up because it's going to lead into what's going to happen in the segment of the episode I'm on now, that I'm talking about now. I just wanted to get that out of the way. And the brains were one day's brain flight away from Earth after destroying Tweenus 12. And then getting back into the actual, getting back on track with where I was in the episode, Farnsworth comes in and tells them that he's got good news. They were supposed to make a delivery to the planet Tweenus 12, but it's been completely destroyed. And then Fry wonders why that's good news. And then basically the professor said the reason why it's good news is because Tweenus 12 paid in advance before they were destroyed. And then when Hermes finds out about Tweenus 12 being destroyed, he's like, this is really strange. First, the civilization of space Rome collapsed. Then, Don Martin Twee went kaflooey. And now, Tweenus 12. And then when Fry sees what the next planet is after Tweenus 12, he wonders that planet is next in line. And then he wonders who's on, and then Leela says it's Earth, the planet they live on, and then Fry says that he hates to be those guys, which, the planet that the brains are attacking next is Earth, basically, but Fry, being an idiot, doesn't understand that. But there's actually sort of a good reason why he's an idiot in this series. It's because of the Delta. I'll explain a little bit about it now since I brought it up, but I won't explain it more in detail until I get into the later season, one of the later seasons where he has to infiltrate the infosphere. I just wanted to get that out of the way. It's because he lacks a thing known as the Delta brainwave. Anyway, and because of Fry's not knowing that the Earth is where the planet humans live on, he says, he'd hate to be those guys. And then Nibbler starts acting ecstatic, like freaking out, and he starts running off. And then when Hermes sees that, he's like, what's with him? He's twitching worse than Zoidberg when somebody mentions the word food. And then when Zoidberg hears the word Hermes say the word food, he's like, whoa, what now? And then basically, Leela goes after Nibbler because of, she doesn't want him to get hurt, and then basically, she takes a ham with her in order to find him, and then basically, while she's looking for him, she tries to lure him out using the ham that she has, and that's when she sees the brain that's there, and then basically, because by this point in this episode, the brains finally managed to arrive on Earth, and that's why Nibbler was leaving, because he was leaving to where his people were, because they needed to find a way to stop the brains. Now, I'm going to explain why they wanted to stop them when I get to the part where Nibbler starts talking and explaining things. But anyway, Leela gets cornered by some of the brains just as Nibbler's about to leave. And then Nibbler starts feeling a little depressed about leaving Leela, so he takes her with him. So they both manage to temporarily escape the planet, and then basically when Leela's in Nibbler's little spaceship, and the hatch falls on her, gets her hair caught, and then basically while they're flying, Leela asks Nibbler if he could just scooch the seat up to the left and stuff, and then basically what happens after that is the brains then start using their stupefaction powers, which are these brainwave things that they shoot out from themselves to make everyone on Earth stupid. Well, everyone except for Fry. And the fact of him being unaffected by the brain spawn's effects is actually a good thing. Which is the part with that delta brainwave, which, as I stated before, I'll explain more about that when I get into the later segments of the series. Well, I might have to save mentioning that for the last video. I just thought I'd bring it up again since I mentioned it. And then basically, because the brains are basically, then Leela basically, Fry basically asks Bender if Leela's back yet, and then because Bender's being affected by the stupefaction, right? Bender starts forgetting that he's a actual robot, and he thinks that he's a human because he's like, Fry, help me, my heart stopped beating. And then basically, Fry basically explains that he doesn't have a heart because he's a robot, and then he's like, yeah, sure, right, robot. And then he tries to look at his skin and he's like, oh, Fry, my skin's all dry and clanky. And then basically, Fry says that of course they are because these robots are made of metal. And then Bender starts to wonder if he is a robot. And then Fry gets annoyed with him and mentions that if it's a scam, he doesn't buy it because Bender already has his power of eternity. Now I just wanted to bring that part up because it was funny because of Bender and stuff. And the people of New York in the series do act funny because of the stupefaction rays that the brains emit. And basically, after Nibbler explains to Leela when they're on his ship heading to his planet, he explains how the universe began, and then basically when Leela overhears that, well, basically he's talking to her and she can understand him because the brains he's projecting his thoughts right onto her brain, and then he mentions about the brains making everyone on Earth stupid, and then he says stupider, and then she inquires about that, and then she asks, and then she said that he goes on to say that they're headed to his home planet where his race has existed since the beginning of the universe. Oh, before I continue, I just want to backtrack to Zoidberg here because Zoidberg does a little bit of a funny thing while he's under the effect of the stupefaction, right? Because basically Fry goes to Zoidberg and he asks him why everyone's acting weird, and then Zoidberg, because he's affected by the stupefaction, right, mentions that Zoidberg want balloon now. Zoidberg want to go outside. And then Fry gets annoyed with Zoidberg about that because he's like, oh, I just let you back in. So basically Zoidberg, because of the stupefaction, he starts being stupid and thinking he's a dog. Oh my god, because that's how dogs work. Sometimes they go outside and then they come back in. Oh my god, I'm sorry. That's hilarious. So basically, in the beginning segment of this episode, Zoidberg was pretending to be a dog, but because of the stupefaction powers, he started acting like wanting to go outside and come back in and stuff after Fry just let him out and back in. And oh my god, I'm sorry. Anyway, now getting back into the segment, and then Fry turns on the news, and in the news, people, which is Linda and Morbo, start acting weird as well, and then Fry realizes that, and then he realizes that he knows what's going on. They've all become idiots. And the funny thing is, with the two news people, with Linda and Morbo in this series, in this episode, they are also affected by the stupefaction rays, but so they sort of tell the news kind of stupidly, which is basically a train crashing, and then Linda says that the people won't be late for work though because the governor lady said she's sending in more trains. And then afterward, Morbo mentions that he can't understand his vocabulary. He's having a hard time understanding what that weird letter is that wears a hat, and then basically Linda says that it's a T, and it's about the word, and then basically he says, "Hello, little man, I will destroy you." And now the funny thing is, ironically, and I say this getting off topic with this episode, in a sense, I can understand why Morbo under the stupefaction rate would think that the T would be a person with a hat, because basically the letter T is basically just a line with a down with a line across it at the top, so it's almost like a man wearing a hat kind of thing. So technically I understand that part. Oh my god. And then that's when Fry realizes that everyone's become idiots. And then basically what happens is Leela and Nibbler end up at Nibbler's home planet, and then Nibbler starts talking to his people, and then they mention that they're welcoming him home as Lord Nibbler, and then basically they're also, one of them, the one that welcomes him back, is mentioning about the pizza bagel, which is the home world, which is the delicacy that's made on Earth, and then basically a female Nibloonian is welcoming Leela, and she tells him not to be afraid. And then Leela mentions that she's not afraid, and then basically afraid, and then the female Nibloonian is saying good, and then that's when Leela said that his name's Lord Nibbler. That's an easy coincidence. But then Nibbler says that that name is only for her sake. In the time it would take for him to pronounce his true name, 1 billion cosmos would be blown into existence in the process. And then she said that they're all cute and stuff, and then basically another male Nibloonian said that they're not cute. He said, "No, we're not. We Nibloonians are a mighty and ancient race." And then he explains how their race started with the flashback. And apparently in the series, when the Earth was, he said that when the Earth was forged in the crucible of the Big Bang, our mighty race was already 6 years old. So basically, while our universe in the series came into existence, the Nibloonians already existed, which is a funny thing. And then basically, when Leela sees that, she starts getting cute vibes from the Nibloonians, and then the male Nibloonian that's telling the story is like, "For the first millisecond of time, things were well, but then there arose a terrible enemy. The brain spawn." Now I'm going to explain who the brain spawn are. The brain spawn are basically the aliens that are going to be the antagonists in 2 episodes in this series. This one and one in the later season. I just wanted to get that out of the way. And then basically the male Nibloonian is mentioning that ever since the brain spawn showed up, they have waged unrelenting war against them. But as he's about to tell the rest of the story, a cook Nibloonian comes in and tells them that lunch is ready. And then the male Nibloonian that was telling the story mentions, Then let the feast of 1,000 hams begin. And then basically, Leela asks Nibbler why the brain spawn are attacking Earth. And this is the funny thing. The reason they are attacking Earth is the same reason why they attacked all the other planets in the universe that they attacked. Because apparently they hate all consciousness. And by consciousness, the thoughts of others. They hate the thoughts of others real bad in the series. Like, bad to the point that, to them, the thoughts of others screech at them. Like the laughs of 1,000 art house movie patrons. Oh my god! I'm sorry, but that's hilarious. The laughs of 1,000 art house movie patrons. Oh, that's just so hilarious. And then the male Niblunian that's with the female Niblunian that's on Leela's lap mentions that because of that, they travel from world to world, seeking out to wipe out all thought in the universe. And then when Leela hears that, she said that they're just like fighting televisions. And then the female Niblunian mentions that even they are powerless to stop the brains, fearsome though they are. And then basically Nibbler mentions about one human who's unaffected by the brains, which is Fry. And then basically when Leo sees about Fry, Nibbler mentions that the fate of the Earth in the entire universe lies on his special mind, but then Lilo wonders when he says special, because Fry doesn't have a mind because he's stupid, which in this case is a good thing because he's not affected by the brain spawn, but because of his stupidity, he uses a microphone the opposite way it's supposed to be used. He talks through the bullhorn area and not through the thing with the mouthpiece. And he tried to tell the people of New York to stop acting stupid. Because he's like, attention, New Yorkers, stop acting so stupid. But he says it backwards, so when a bird comes, it blows into the actual part where he's supposed to speak into through the megaphone in order to amplify your voice. Because of that, he hears the bird squawk. And then basically, in the next scene, Lilo wonders how is it that Fry is unable to resist the brains. And then basically, the female Niblunian mentions that the brains try to suppress all thought in the universe by eliminating they try to eliminate all thought in the universe by stopping the delta brainwave. Now I'm going to explain what the delta brainwave is now that I brought it up. The delta brainwave in this series is a brainwave that's emitted from all humans and robots, as well as some trees. Apparently some trees also produce this brainwave, which I find confusing. I mean, I get why humans and robots produce that brainwave because they're physical beings, but the part that confuses me is why some trees would produce it. Anyway, but then Nibbler mentions that Fry somehow does not, and that actually gonna tie into later on in the series, specifically in the next season. I just wanted to get that out of the way since I brought it up. And then basically they say that Leela has to go down to Earth to get Fry to help them stop the brains. And then basically she said that they can count on her, but one of the male Niblunians said that they can't because once she gets to Earth, she'll be too stupid to remember the message, which is why they wrote it down. And then Nibbler mentions that's why they wrote it down, and then the other male Niblunian mentions that they've also prepared a bag lunch and some mittens, and then basically Leela shows back up at the Planet Express building, right when Fry is giving the people of the Planet Express crew a lecture on who the first president of the United States is, George Washington, and then that's when Leela comes crashing in, and then Fry asks Leela if she's become a bonehead, and then basically she starts acting stupid and saying things small ways where she said, I must tell you important something. And then Fry starts getting confused by that, and then she sees the note on her chest, and then she's like, this, you British! And Fry basically takes it, but it's a note, but he doesn't know it's a note, so he takes it to the hanky, so he blows into it and throws it into the fireplace, and then basically, Leela tries to go to retrieve it, but it's because it's in the fire, she touches the fire and it's on, and then the professor's like, well, she's like, ow, fire hot, and then the professor's like, the professor will help. Fire indeed hot. And they actually used one of the heads of the president's Chester A. Arthur to put out a fire that's caused because of the crash landing. And when the head of Chester A. Arthur is brought out, he's like, oh, Chester A. Arthur, fall down. And then basically, Leela mentions that brain make people dumb, but Fry thinks that Fry doesn't know what she means by that because he thinks that the brain is the part of the human body. Is like, no, Leela, brain make people smart. And then Leela turns him to look at the brains that are outside, and then Fry gets horrified by them, and she mentions to him that you go fight. Like, he's like, when he sees the brains, he's like, ah! And then Leela mentions to him stupidly that he has to go fight the biggest brain of all. She's like, you go fight biggest brain of all. And then Fry wonders where that brain is, and then Leela says, I don't know. And then Fry kind of logically deducts where it is, because he's like, a giant brain is basically a giant nerd. And where would a giant nerd go? And that's when he realizes that he's like, the library. So he goes to the New York Public Library to confront the giant brain, and the giant brain is reading this book that has to do with the Dewey Decimal System in it. And he's like, prophetic humans, arranging your things by category made it easier to absorb. Dewey, you fool! Your decimal system has fallen right into my hands. Oh my god. And then basically, that's when Fry shows up, and then the big brain mentions, that when he sees Fry, he's like, he wonders who he is, and then Fry says that he's there to kick his ass, and then basically the big brain is like, wishful thinking. We have long since evolved beyond the need for asses. And then basically, Fry starts fighting him, but he wonders how he can fight the brains, and then he starts trying to think, and then the brain gets hurt because of that. He's like, oh, stop that! And then when Fry realizes that thinking hurts him, he's like, hey, thinking hurts him. Maybe I can think of a way to use that. So he's thinking again about how to use a way to use thinking to hurt the brains. And then when he comes up with an idea, he's stumped because he's like, aha, prepare to be thought at. Leela, give me, like when he comes up with a way to fight them, he says, prepare to be thought at, and he asks Leela to give him a topic, but Leela's under the effect of this stupefaction. He's like, Leela, give me a topic. And then Leela's like, duh, because she's under the effect of the stupefaction field because she's back on Earth. And then Fry gets annoyed by that and he's like, seriously, I can't think of anything. So because he can't think of anything, he can't damage the brains. So instead, he basically uses the books in the library to hurt the brain by reading them. And then he starts going through the books, and then to decide which one to read, he picks up Hardy Boys, which is too easy, so he puts it down, and then he picks up Nancy Drew, which is too hard, so he also puts it down, and then he finds the book known as Bonfire of the Vanity and starts reading it to the big brain, causing him to get hurt because of it, and he's like, take that, and that! This word I don't understand, but take this one! And then basically the big brain gets a little annoyed by that and he's like, you haven't won yet. Each one of these books leads to a different world and I will imprison you there forever. So he basically takes them into the world of Moby Dick, which is the book about the Captain Ahab and the white whale. And then basically... Now, this episode is also kind of reminiscent of a Fairly Odd Parents episode I used to watch as a kid. The one where Timmy ends up at the library and has to finish his 500-page book report that he put off the whole summer. Anyway, basically, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because two of the books that Fry and Leela end up in this episode happen to be the same books that are from two books that are from that series, which is Moby Dick and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Anyway, basically, while they're in the Moby Dick book, Captain Ahab mentions that he'll give a gold doubloon to whoever spies the white whale, and then Queequeg says he found it, and then. But then Captain Ahab says that he saw it first, so he keeps the gold doubloon. And then Fry goes to use the spear, but then Queequeg stops him because he's like, wait, that no whale. That it great dinky whale. And then Fry tells him to let go of him because he's got to kill it. And then basically the brain mocks him and he's like, farewell, you will be trapped inside this dead, symbolish tome forever. And then they manage to go after the big brain again, and they end up in the Tom Sawyer book, and then the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and then basically Fry asks him if he's seen a giant brain around here, and then Tom Sawyer mentions yep, I had them help me whitewash and polish bench. And then the big brain starts to get annoyed because he realizes that it's not funny. Because he's like, Tom Sawyer, you tricked me. This is less fun than previously indicated. Let this drab slice of Americana be your tomb for all eternity. And then they chase after him, and they end up in the Pride and Prejudice book, which is basically a book about social hierarchy. And then while they're fighting the brain, what happens is Big Brain gets introduced as Mr. Brainy, and then basically before they start fighting it, basically Fry throws white paint on it to make it look like the white whale, and because of that, Queequeg and Captain Ahab start attacking him, and then Fry mentions that he's got an idea, so he tells Leela to stay there with Queequeg, and then basically what his idea is trapping the big brain in his own book that's filled with plot holes and spelling errors. Oh my god. And basically when he's writing it, what happens is the storyline of it takes part in the segment of the episode that happens, and basically in the segment of the episode where it happens, Fry dies after he tries to fry the brain using some electroshock treatment because he's like, alright brain, time for some electroshock treatment. And then basically he falls and hits the bookcase, and then Leela gets upset that because she thinks he's dead but it turns out to be a part of Fry's story, and then Fry's like, the big brain left, triumphant as he went, ha 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 ha. And then for no reason, he left the Earth and never came back. And then he finishes the book, and then he says now that he's finished the book, he says that the big brain is trapped inside a book he created. And actually, when the big brain was getting hurt, what happened was the female Niblunian noticed that the brains were weakening, and she mentioned to the Niblunians that Niblunians to nipple stations, prepare cuddle buns for deployment in 40 niblets. And then Nibbler, after that, he's like, oh, sometimes I fear we are cute. And then she's like, no, oh, no, snush. Now that was actually when the brain started to get weakened, when Fry was using the thought process out of him to weaken him, because the big brain was the one that basically controlled the smaller brains. And then basically, Fry basically tells Leela that the brain is now trapped inside his book, which is full of a mess of plot holes and spelling errors. And then basically, because of the book, the big brain starts acting the same way as the book. He's like, the big brain, I'm winning it again. I am the greatest. The greatest. And he's like, oh, no, I am leaving Earth for no reason. Reason. Because basically, as Fry said, his book is a book of plot holes and spelling errors. So it's plausible that he spelled the word reason as the word raisin. So, oh my God, I'm sorry. But that's just so hilarious. Anyway, basically what happens is, after the brains are defeated and leave the planet, basically what happens is Lena says that she feels better in cognitive faculties, which is the brain, and then basically Fry says that he managed to defeat the brains, and then basically he tries to promote the library by saying it was all thanks to his books at his local library. And then basically in the next scene what happens is Nibbler is doing this narration and explaining what happened after the brain spawn were defeated. And he mentions that because of the brain spawn's effects, the people of Earth had no memory about what happened except for Fry. But even though he knew about it, nobody cared anything about him or paid any attention to him or cared about what he had to say. And then he said that he returns to his post to remain ever vigilant should the Earth ever come under brain attack again. And if that day happens, God help us. God help us all. But then Leela says it's time for a diaper change, and then the Nibbler in the narration decides that, like, he's like, end transmission. And that's basically where this episode stops. So if you guys like this video when I post it, just please give this video the real best you guys can, and I will see you guys probably maybe either tomorrow or the day after for the next video. But until then, guys, like I always tell you with this series, please give this video the real best you guys can, and like I always say with this series, fun on a bun.